Good morning and welcome to the Dr. Baruch Health Literacy Show with my co host, Helise. Sister Helise is once again not able to come in today, but she is here in spirit. We appreciate you, Helise. And if she should make it here in the middle of the show, she will be a great addition. We got a lot of testosterone going on today, and it's all good. It's all good because sometimes the brothers just need to get it together so we can work it out, right? Well, we got a brother who's here who's going to indeed talk to us about working it out, and you know, when when you realize that people in the far reaches of the planet, sometimes the state, sometimes the country, are thinking very similar thoughts to the thoughts that you're having with regard to what's going on in the world around us, you realize that this ain't hocus pocus like that. Folk ain't getting away with stuff. We are we happen to be in the midst of what I call the birth canal. Obviously, we're in the birth canal because something has got to happen after all of this takes place. Something has got to happen that's going to be really nice that we all can look forward to. So that's why we're travailing in pain at the moment. But here on the health literacy show, we're probably going to do a little bit of health and a little bit of what we call the Not on My Watch show, in that there is a lot of things going on, not only in the space of health and wellness, but just in the space of mental wellness, the space of cultural wellness and spiritual wellness, and the space of spiritual warfare. For those of you who've ever ventured out and read the book Sun Tzu's The Art of War, the best way to defeat your enemy is to defeat him without even having to engage him. And if I were to analyze the fight, the challenge, the struggle that I see people like me having today, I would say that somebody's read Sun Tzu's Art of War, because we ain't even being engaged, and we find ourselves losing in this conflict. And when I say not being engaged, I mean nobody's running through our neighborhoods with a machete and directly affecting us. So much of what's going on inside of our community is fits under the category of self-inflicted wounds. We got self-inflicted wounds because we believe too much stuff. We believe that what we're hearing is the truth. We do what it is that folk are telling us to do, who don't have our best interest at heart. And we do it without question. We do it without batting an eye, And just looking at these last couple of years, ever since, I guess, the first major one was, maybe it wasn't the first, but one of the ones that got a lot of press, that is the slaying of a young black man, was Trayvon Martin. And we saw this groundswell of energy. People were, they were upset. Enough was enough. This is the last time. And how many more last times have we had? Going back to, I need to get Samuel Jackson's audio clip where he says, "Enough is enough." Because sure enough got to be enough already. But don't get caught up by the distraction. The distraction would have you to believe that the only place we're being attacked, the only place we're losing our lives, the only place we're losing this fight, the only place we're losing our people is on the streets of the urban centers at the hands of the police departments. Don't be deluded, because that's a distraction. Most of you have friends, family, and loved ones who have died over the course of the last several years, sometimes several months, from high blood pressure, heart disease, and diabetes. So don't go to sleep thinking that, Ain't nobody shoot. Ain't no police officer shoot nobody today. We good. No, but just check the number of us who've died from diabetes and high blood pressure and all preventable illnesses, all illnesses that result from the standard, what I call the SBAD diet, the standard Black American diet. Um, we we again find ourselves with self-inflicted wounds. Yeah, it's made readily available to us, but we have a big problem. So we're going to bring into this conversation today a brother who is no stranger to the idea of getting up and doing something, getting out and making a difference. A brother who's no stranger to teaching people about what it is that we have to do in order to get this right. This is not hocus pocus, and this is not. It's not going to take some act of something coming out the sky. It's going to take an act of you right there looking and listening to me right now. It's going to take an act of you. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to get up and make a difference in your life. And there's nobody that has more to gain from what it is that is going to happen. There's nobody that has more to gain from it than you. And you would think that that would be sufficient. That is sufficient to warrant us engaging a process because we want things to get better for ourselves. Absolutely. That should be where our thinking is. So without further ado, I'd like to bring into this discussion, let me make sure I got all this technical stuff right. Bring into this discussion Brother Zambouzi. Brother Zambouzi.
How are you? How are you?
I'm doing great, brother. How about yourself?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
Great, great, great.
Feel very good.
Listen, brother, for those of us in this listening audience, and I know we have some overlap, you and I, because some people like what you got to say and like what I got to say, and they found us on Facebook or Twitter or wherever they found us. And but for those who don't know you, who happen to check out my show, give us a little background on who Brother Zambouzi is.
Okay. Well, first of all, my name is Zindua. That's Zindua. Last name Tambuzi. That's Tam as in Mary, Buzi. And I'm a brother from Newark, New Jersey, who has lived through a series of the calamities that have faced our lives over the last 5 to 6 decades. And early in the game, I realized that this is something I wanted to address. When I was 9 years old, my brother was at Princeton, and he was in a gifted and talented program. And I heard my mother and another woman back in 1963 talking about all the things that was going on that was affecting our lives. And I remember her saying and talking to this woman, if they kill Martin Luther King, I don't know what we're going to do. They don't kill Kennedy. And I said to myself, if I can do anything in my life, it's to stop this perpetual fear about us being killed. So I was 9 years old at that time, and I began to embark on that journey. And whenever you focus on something, circumstances, events, people, and conditions begin to give you the energy and the power to continue on that light journey that you decide to jump on.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Please forgive me for changing your name to Zambouzi, but
It's all good, brother. It's all good.
I want to color it up a bit and say that because you come with such color and flavor, somehow or another, but the T switched with a Z, and that gave me a little bit more flavor in order to. But anyway,
it's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Brother Tambuzi, of course.
Yes.
Listen, it's funny you talk about your journey, and I have yet a similar journey. Because in I believe it was 1976, I was looking at the news, listening to the news, and I heard about something that happened in South Africa. We heard about the children who just wanted to be able to learn a language that they could speak that would go beyond the boundaries of of South America. They would give them an opportunity to go somewhere else and be able to communicate with folk. And when I heard their plight and when I saw what happened to them and that they were literally being mowed down like roaches,
Yes.
being sprayed down because of their desire, to have what anybody would desire for themselves. I said, oh no. No, 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 no. Something's got to change. Somebody, now my life took a completely different course as a result of that.
Yes.
I was like, whoa. So I'm right there with you. So tell us what you've done since you've had that vision and your mind is opened up to what it is that you knew you needed to do. What did you do after that?
Well, and I thought about it as you was talking about that murder in Sharpsville massacre back in '76 when they killed those babies who was trying to stand up for themselves.
Right.
And that similar kind of piece hit me back in '72 when I was in high school and I was on the bus and I flipped open the newspaper and found out that they had murdered Freddie Hampton.
Right.
And I was just so determined at them that there was nothing else at that point that could happen to us in this country or out that would anger me any more than I already was.
Right.
My anger cap had been filled when they murdered Freddie Hampton because I was 17 and so was he, about 17 and 18. And I couldn't get angry anymore, so it became a focus, it became a determination. So I politely went to undergrad school in North Carolina, and North Carolina Central in Durham. And then I realized I had gotten to a level that I knew I needed to leave the country.
Mm.
I said I need to be around some black people who were not ex-slaves.
Mm.
I wanted to hear the narrative of black people who had not been ex-slaves. I was done with the narrative of white people, and I was done with the narrative of black people because the narrative that they got from the slave master. So I needed to journey out of here to be able to see, feel, interview, and live amongst people who had not been victimized by enslavement. Little did I know and learn what colonialism was at that time and the impact that colonialism had taken. That's when I got my first introduction to the difference between slavery and colonialism. One, you get to take a boat ride, the other, you get abused right where you are. And so through that journey and through that venture, I lived in Kenya. And apart from the teaching, I taught math and science and Peace Corps in Kenya. I traveled to Tanzania, to Zambia, to Zimbabwe, to Swaziland. I went to Nigeria, Senegal, and the Ivory Coast. And so I was blessed to see black folks from all different areas, east, west, and south, as well as rural and urban. And it helped me to get a global picture of who we were and of how far off our course was in order to begin to become the first world people that we originally were intended to be.
Okay, great. So, again, we are traveling a similar course because I reflect on my journey to Tanzania. And when I went to Tanzania, I guess that was 2010. In 2010, I went to Tanzania, and the experience was very similar to what you're speaking about, in the sense that I go to Tanzania, and although I traveled with a couple of Caucasians and all the rest of the folk were black, I forgot that white people were really on the planet.
Wow.
And it wasn't that this was it wasn't like a major positive thing or major negative thing. It was just a thing that, wow, I forgot that, here there's a black president. Everybody in the, in Tanzania, you know the history probably better than I do about, Nyerere and the socialist work that he did there inside of Tanzania, which they are still, from what I'm told, I guess it depends on the perspective. The people that I communicate with tell me that they're still benefiting from the foundation that he laid as compared to everybody else buying into this, capitalist, democratic, society that other countries bought into. With the foundation that he laid, they're still benefiting from. But I got a chance to touch people and talk to people and engage people who were, just like you said, they had not been enslaved. They could tell you some stories about the Germans and they could tell you about their independence, but it was a different kind of experience, and I definitely appreciated it. And so I haven't made it to Kenya. I did make it to Uganda, and when I went to Uganda, it was a completely different experience because in Tanzania, the people treated me like I was family. And in Uganda, the people treated me like I was a tourist with deep pockets, and they needed to get it all. And it was a different experience. I can't say that I was turned away. It wasn't the most pleasant thing. I'm a vegan, and a guy's trying to sell me a cow tongue, and I'm like, brother, you understand what vegan and vegetarian is, right? Yeah, 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 yeah. But look. Okay, not $30. We'll make it $20. That's okay. But do you understand that I don't even eat that? But and in Tanzania, it was quite different. Quite different experience. They're very welcoming. They're very warm. I can't wait to go back. I made a commitment to go back. I can't wait to go back. I, in fact, was given land there in Tanzania, and all I have to do is go back, and it's mine. So I think it's, if I remember correctly, it was 200 hectares of land, and I look forward to going back and experiencing that. Meanwhile, Brother Tambuzi, here in the United States of America, we've got the drama that we do have as life has continued to spiral in the direction that it is. Here it is, we're in the middle of a political circus. It's not a political year. This is a political circus we're in the middle of. And you look up today, and folk are getting excited and motivated about a dude named Trump. Talk to us about that.
Well, Trump, Donald Trump, typifies two aspects of the American emotion and the American psychological decline. I often say to people there are three types of people who live in America. They are natives of the Americas. Those are the indigenous people who were here long before others arrived. They are American nationals. Those are people who are here, people of color, African people, and all the people who are born and raised here, but whose descendants do not come from Europe. And then there are Americans. Those are the people who are born and raised here, whose descendants come from Europe, the Caucasians. And so the dilemma in Americans is Americans want to reaffirm to American nationals that you are not me. You are not afforded the same rules, laws, ethics, code, attitude, capacity, and first class seats that we do because we are Americans. And because you're an American national, continuing to try to sit in my first class seat, you are irritating me here because you should be in coach, if not in the trunk. And the war between Americans is to reaffirm to American nationals that you are not me. And because American nationals have been fed a line that they are Americans, they continue to try to push Americans to give them equity. That will never happen. And the reality that they are not Americans seems to challenge the peace and tranquility of the abused because they want to be recognized because they don't recognize themselves. So their identity loss And therefore, they constantly set themselves up to be victimized and abused. Donald Trump personifies that
Hmm.
because he shows we are going to make Americans again. What does that say? We're going to reaffirm who we are, and more importantly, reaffirm who you are. And that becomes the undertone of all we are watching.
Hmm. We're going to make America great again. That's what Donald Trump says. We're going to make America great again. And we all know, of course, what the translation is based on who's in the audience, what their desire is, and what they see as making America great. Even when the statisticians come before them and tell them, okay, you realize that what you're asking for is a period of time when things were worse for you. They were worse for you during this time, but this is what you want. This is what you're asking for. This is what you have perceived and created in your mind as being this is when America was great. So people don't even have an attachment to the reality in this whole conversation. They're screaming and hollering and getting excited about a dude who's telling them that something's going to manifest as it did before, and it wasn't even a good time for them. So we definitely are dealing with a psychosis, and the psychosis is on both sides. It's not just that people are challenged with the challenged with what is seemingly directly in the face. We're not just challenged as people of color. We're not just challenged with people what's directly in our face, but it's also this facade that exists out there. And you do work with people to help them get their life in order. Talk to me about, and talk to our audience about the work that you do to help us get our lives in order.
One of the principal things that I do that I'm so passionate about is I do life and business planning. And that's a very beautiful thing because it's very enriching to help people design three things in their lives: what they want to be, what they want to do, and what they want to have. And the journey to being free starts with the clarity of that kind of understanding. And if the whole is equal to the sum of the parts, until the parts are clear, then the whole can't be one. And if the whole can't be one, we can't fix the problem because we are outnumbered, we are outmanned, we are outgunned, we are out strategized. And in order for us to be able to prevail, we must get clear. And that's why I always say little beats big when little is smart. First with the mind and then with the heart.
Mm.
So I help people to design and lay out those things, and we begin to look at the 5 principal factors that will determine our success. And they are finances. How do you perfect generating finances without selling labor and time? Because that is the first chain that they lock to the African American. In order to get the money to live, give me your time. Give me your labor. And I'm not going to teach you any way to generate outside of that because I want to consume your energy so you can't focus on being free. Then there's business. Business is the vehicle you use to generate finances to become financially independent. Without the business, you don't have the money. Without the money, you must sell me all of your labor and your time. So in order for us to begin to be free, we in the community must cultivate businesses to employ our own, our babies, our families, our wives, our women, our men, our sons, employ them so they're not wandering and scattered and aimless, looking to their adversary for subsistence through selling labor. Then there is education. It's the vehicle you use to generate. Education is the ability and the capacity to know. It doesn't necessarily mean going to school, it means learning. And learning enables you to develop the business, and the business enables you to generate the money, and the money can get your labor and your time back. Then there's family. Whether it's Tanzania or your immediate family, we must unify in love so that we are one, because we must be happy. When you are happy, there's nothing that you cannot accomplish. And when you are not happy, there's nothing you can accomplish. So happy is the precept for success. It doesn't matter how much you have or you don't if you're happy. It doesn't matter what the classification of the relationship is if the people involved are happy. Because if the mother is happy and the daddy is happy, the baby will be happy. So happy is major. And then the fifth area is spiritual and cultural development. How well can you strengthen yourself spiritually so you can meet and overcome obstacles? Because success carries with it pressure. Spirituality is the great equalizer. As it is in the physical, so is it in the non-physical. Go up 35,000 feet in a 747 and let that window have a bullet hole in it. You are coming back to earth because the pressure on the outside will exceed the pressure on the inside, and that jet will crush and come back like fragments. Go down 1 mile underwater in a submarine and let that submarine get compromised with a little pinhole in it. It will crush like a sardine can because the pressure on the outside will become greater than the pressure on the inside. So is it the same with you and success, or me with failure? The person who succeeds in Hollywood or sports, who can handle themselves and handle the pressure, succeeds. The one who doesn't become broke, destitute, because they could not handle the pressure. Show me the brother who's hanging up next to the store buying 50-cent liquor. He is on the downside of pressure. But if he can handle it, he will survive it and ultimately come back. If he can't, depression and cold will crush him. So pressure is what spirituality enables you to handle. And when you can develop your spiritual strength, you can handle anything on the outside because you are pressurized on the inside. Ask Nelson Mandela. 26 years, but they could not break his pressure on the inside. So he walks out of jail and becomes the president of the country and transforms a world.
Wow. That's what's up. You know, it's the conversation about relationships is such a heavy one. The conversation about family, you know, because the first relationship that we got to work out is our relationship with ourselves. Yes. And that one isn't intact. So you got the relationship with yourself that we need to work out. You got your relationship with your maker, you know, and you got your relationship with your mate or your family. And all of those relationships are off. One, because I believe, and I'm pretty sure in the realm of strategic warfare, that if it is true that we have the capacity, if we had the capacity to tap into our spiritual strength, a lot of these worldly and natural calamities that exist and challenges that we have, they would not be so prevalent. So then I have to conclude then that we aren't tapping into that energy force. We're tapping into a facade. And that facade gives us the illusion of having power. It gives us the illusion we're using the same or similar words. We're using similar stories, and it seems like it all makes sense, and it seems like it should work. And then you tie into that the concept of faith. And when you tie in the concept of faith into that, now all of a sudden it's like, okay, don't worry about the fact that it ain't working. Just have faith, because it's going to work. If you just keep believing, it's going to work. Eventually, it's going to work. Meanwhile, I've watched us lose so much, as a people. We've lost so much, even if it's at the hands of our identified, qualified, bona fide enemy. We can say, we've lost a whole lot. But we've also lost a whole lot to this religious construct. We put a whole lot of resources into this religious construct, and I don't think our people are getting, in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, he said, we've been written a check, but the check's got, when we took it to the bank, it's got insufficient funds in the account to make good on the check. But the people are caught in a cycle where we believe that, this is still a good thing. This is still what we should be doing. And then in the realm of relationships, going beyond the bounds of just your relationship with yourself, if you don't know who you are, you don't know, what you are supposed to be doing, you don't know where you've come from, if you don't have any concept of a vision for yourself that fits into who it is that you are and what you have the capacity to produce, it just opens up the door for you to have drama all across your life. So I was talking to a young lady yesterday, and, we were talking about her career. We were talking about her education. We happened to jump into relationships. And I said, one of the things that fails us in the world of relationships is the fact that too many times we're in pursuit of pleasure rather than having some purpose and purpose motivator in all of this. The motivator tends to be pleasure. And I said back in the day, when you did a good thing, you got rewarded, and so doing something positive or beneficial got you pleasure as a result of doing that. Now we've decided, okay, skip the doing something positive and beneficial and with purpose. We're just going to go get the pleasure. So we pursue after the pleasure, and she started tearing up, and I was like, well, what's going on? And her response is, she said, I just got another implant. And I've had a brother, Dr. Randy Short, on here on the radio station, and he's talked about the Depo-Provera implant. But she's got this new implant. Now, Depo is like 3 months. She's got this new implant that she's just got for the second round of 3 years of birth control in something that gets inserted into her arm. And I said, wow, to think that somebody has decided that this is the best way for us to control a population's growth, and that we bought into it in the name of, I just want to have a good time and not have to deal with the responsibility of bringing any children into the world. That's an awful piece, but I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we're not building strong relationships. We're just building good times. We just want to have a good time. And I think, we could go beyond that space, and we could talk about what we do in the realm of nutrition. We're supposed to eat to nourish the body, but most people eat to have a good time. And unfortunately, whether you're having a good time in the bed with somebody, or you're having a good time at eating your lunch, out somewhere at some what I call fast depopulation restaurant, that across the board, you are spending time doing something that is non-productive. So you're losing time, and you're engaging a process that somebody else told you was what you should do and was worthwhile and would be better than not doing it. And we find ourselves looking in the rearview mirror of life and realizing, wow, now that I've got the right definition and I can really look at what it is that I've done with my life, I've just wasted time. And now I've got to figure out what to do with the rest of this time to make all of this make sense. And Brother Tambuzi, you chime in with me as I go through this, this diatribe,
Yes, yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's so true, and it goes back to who are they taking their cues from?
Uh,
See, we have a responsibility
mm,
to provide a road for those who come behind
yep.
us. And because they have no road, they let us know what we have taught them or what we have not taught them. And therefore, the adversary will train yours if you don't train yours.
Mm-hmm.
And the behavior of those coming behind you lets you know the job you have done. So we have not, as fathers, given our daughters the feelings of wholeness so they have the understanding of the world and what it will do to them.
Hmm.
It will use them, it will then misuse them, and multiple misuse is abuse. It will abuse them for its profitable ends. And what happens to them is secondary, if at all. And so those whole processes are a learned pattern and a learned behavior from a people who have not been taught, not been trained, not been led, and not been guided. And when we fail to do that for our boys, that's what we get: incarceration and the school to prison pipeline. When we fail to do that for our girls, we leave them vulnerable to a world that they have to select from what they hear from their peers and in the media. When we fail to do that for our men who are uneducated, uninformed, we leave them vulnerable for mass incarceration. So it's our responsibility to provide a direction, a purpose, a method, and a technique. We have to reclaim the education of our youth. We have to build and fortify our community. We have to elevate pride in being black. And then we have to ascend our black woman to a place of pride so she doesn't feel she's got to drug herself, have implants, wear fake Korean hair in order to be adorned as beautiful. We are the motivation for her orientation towards how she perceives herself and how she treats herself, starting with the father and then ending into the social world of her peers.
Yes, sir. Well, I can definitely relate, and I teach it all the time that you don't beat somebody over the head to get them to give you better results or to make better choices on behalf of themselves. You make them feel better about themselves, and when you can make a person feel better about themselves, all of a sudden, all those things that they did as a low self-worth individual, as a low self-esteem individual, all of a sudden they become unacceptable. So I'm on board with you with regard to reestablishing that order, and this is an order that when I was a child, I was growing up in the '60s and '70s, and there was a man in every household in my neighborhood until somewhere around I guess it was the '70s and definitely into the '80s. That whole paradigm shifted. You have any knowledge about why it is that happened, and not only why it happened, what happened, but then what do we have to do to get it back?
Well, Chancellor Williams said it best in The Destruction of Black Civilization, that when you want to destroy a people, you must go after the vanguard.
Mm.
The man is the maintainer, the provider, the spiritual guide for his home. And when you have a community that has men as fathers and husbands, you have men as the vanguard for the security, protection, and the health of the community. During that same time period in the 70s and the 60s, on the other side of the tracks, there were so many of us who did not have fathers. And so the disorientation was so great that many of us Me and peers of mine, we used to laugh at friends of ours who had two parents. And we would tell our buddies, you were so bad, it took two of your parents to raise you. And so that becomes the twisted orientation of a child when they see the environment that does not have men. The one that does have a father begins to be the weird one to the massive amount who don't. And so disorientation can take place in another way if you see a group of boys who are raised in an orphanage and then you see one who lives at home. The ones in the orphanage can say, you are so bad and you have such a special ed case, you need two parents to raise you while we can be raised as a group. So disorientation comes as a result of your habits, your history, your family background, and your environment. And that has been controlled on the outside of us to give us a distorted perception of reality. So the distortion makes you think you're going up and you're really going down. The distortion makes you really think you're in the light when you're really in the dark. The distortion makes you think you are really investing money and you're just really spending it on things that don't appreciate in value. And because the distortion is so pervasive, because somebody else has educated us. Somebody else controls the entertainment that causes our children to see alcohol and drugs and reefer and lovers of self as options in a destroyed cultural people. Somebody else has told us how to use money to spend on consumer goods versus invest money to build a community and a family. Somebody else has made us think that you go to college and you go to trade school to get a job. That's a training that fashions you on the conveyor belt of emotional, psychological, and religious impotence. And that's what we've been victimized by, and life plays it out.
So how do we get it back, brother? What do we need to do at this hour? You know, and I don't expect that this is going to be fixed in a minute. This is going to take probably 2 to 3 times as much time as it's taken us to get to where we are. You know, what is it that we're going to need to do to get this back?
Well, we have to declare. See, we've made allegiance to a country and people who don't have an allegiance to us. So we first must declare that we are going to teach, organize, and train African people who are emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually handcuffed. And that's the majority of us, the overwhelming majority, to do 3 things: get free, get in control, and get in power. That needs to be the declaration of every African man and woman, both born in America and out. To teach, to organize, and to train African people who are emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually handcuffed to get free, get in control, and get in power. And how do we do that? We do that by taking control of our time. Our time is our greatest asset next to our health. You begin to take control of your time and health, you have the freedom to think about what you need to do next. Then we have to develop the capacity to understand we can use our minds to generate revenue by separating our minds from our bodies, and then create with our minds and our talent packages, products, and programs that we can sell to generate the revenue we need. We got to change the paradigm by which we operate. And when we begin to do that, we develop passive income, not labor income. When we do that, we begin to develop portfolio income, but not labor income. And then we can be free in our space because we have the revenue to exist. Now, once we get the revenue to exist, we've got the keys to go and get freedom. That's not freedom. That's just the keys to go get freedom. If you think money is freedom, ask Bill Cosby. He'll let you know that money ain't freedom.
Right.
As soon as he tried to exercise his freedom because he had money, they closed in on him like a SWAT team to tie him up because money is not freedom. Money is the key to get freedom. Now, with that key, you can begin to go after freedom because now you can create the educational system to retrain our youth. No people who are not free send their children to their adversary to educate them. You cannot imagine a buck taking his deer and does to the lions and asking them to educate them.
Right.
That does not happen because the Jews will never take their kids to the Germans. The Palestinians will never take their children to the Jews, and we should never be giving our children to whites, the architects of our enslavement, to educate them. So financial liberation enables us to reclaim the education of our children. Then we can go after the entertainment industry that injects a poison. You think the sister got the poison from the birth control pills, the birth control medicine. You listen to the drumbeat of death that our kids is listening to over their airwaves. And that's poisoning them concurrently. The music is poisoning them. The Depo-Provera is poisoning them. The education is poisoning them. The lack of direction we provide is poisoning them. The media that's poisoning. So they're getting poison from their ears, poison from their eyes, poison from the rhythms of the beats of the other people like them that reaffirm their ignorance. That's what being free is. Then we can begin to leverage law enforcement. We can begin to leverage politicians that control it. We can begin to leverage the institutions that foster our way of life and then ultimately go after the religious phenobarbital, the religious carcinogen that causes us to believe that the architects of our enslavement has put together a religious way that will get us free. First the freedom, then the control, and then we can go after power.
That's a great blueprint, brother. That's a great blueprint. And hopefully those of us in the viewing and listening audience hit the rewind button and capture that again with your pens and pads so that you all can figure out exactly what we need to do going forward and probably more so what we need to stop doing going forward. And something that I've picked up on, Brother Tambuzzi, and you can maybe share some insight on this as well, as part of the conditioning. You talked about the educational system. Part of the conditioning that we've experienced here during this neo-colonialism educational experience that we're having under the auspices of the United States Department of Education, as put together by J.D. Rockefeller and the folk that were aligned with him back in the day, is that we've been educated to perceive all of our realistic solutions as repugnant. So you create an inbreed into the individual a perpetuation of the problem because the solution appears to be, and they perceive it to be, the most repulsive thing that one could think about doing. And I use the example of the guy that comes to me with high blood pressure, heart disease, and prostate cancer. And I said, well, you need to change your diet. And he said, well, Doc, I'm not going to do that. You got to be crazy. I'm not about to change my diet. Give me a pill that I can take so that I can beat this thing. And I said, no, you don't need a pill. You need to change your diet. No, well, I need to go somebody else because you obviously don't have the solution that's going to work for me. But I think that's across the board. You know, you talk to parents now, you should homeschool your children, and that's like repulsive. What? homeschool my child. I got to work a job. I get tired of being around them all day. I don't want to be around my children all day. I don't think they want to be around me all day long. So in each of these categories, we have to now begin to re-educate and reconnect us to this solution that is not repugnant. This solution that in fact is, should be welcomed by us and has really, really great positive outcome potential associated with it. But we have to, in the meantime, while we're doing all of these things that you've expressed and that I've expressed, we can't lose sight of the fact that our enemy is ramping up the game to keep us where we are.
Well, it's an art. Winning and losing is an art. And we must become the great artist, because no one is going to give you your solutions so that you can win and they can lose. We are on the offensive side of the ball trying to right a terrible wrong. They're on the defensive side of the ball trying to prevent the end of something good.
Gotta say, brother, say that again.
We are on the offensive side of the ball trying to right a terrible wrong. They're on the defensive side of the ball trying to prevent the end of something good. Therein lies the game. And they're not on the field to give you yardage. They're on the field to prevent you from getting an inch. Forget a yard, an inch. They want to drive you for a loss so far that not only do you get a touchback, that they want to drive you back up into the stands and out the back of the stadium. And then they want to drive stakes into you long after the game is over. So they're not there to accommodate you and to help you. It is your responsibility. I've never seen a lion chase a deer and say, I know how much you want to live, so I'm not going to chase you down and bite your neck off and drag you up the tree. It's the way nature put the game together. If I don't eat you or kill you, my cubs don't eat. It ain't personal, and we don't have supermarkets out here in the jungle. You are my supermarket. So I'm running to catch you. The deer can't explain to the lion how much it has other little does around. It cannot talk to them about why would you want to harm me. And it cannot do anything but flight or fight. And so we must learn from the animals again, that we have to take responsibility of being able to line up with a multi-dimensional offensive line and a strong enough offensive line that can hold the line so that the defense doesn't collapse on us while we gain yardage. And we have not prepared ourselves, so we want to indict them for their thorough, continuous, and perpetual preparation. If they have out-trained us, if they have out-planned us, if they out-organized us, and if they running so many plays, they've got us confused, then they will win. And I can't even say I'm mad at them.
Well, it makes me think about a conversation you and I were having earlier about the Caucasian woman who shared with me that so I was talking about the plight of the black man or black people in the United States of America, and isn't this an atrocity? And she said, no, it's not. She said, in fact, you don't understand that white people were actually put here to get rid of your weak. White people have been put here so that you all can streamline, get rid of all of this excess, unnecessary baggage, this unworthy baggage to get to the end zone, if you will, using the football analogy, that we want to cut off all of that so that those that are supposed to get to the end are the ones that get to the end, and all those that are not supposed to get, we're going to deal with them. Tell me what you think about that.
Well, as you told me that, I thought about it for a minute, and I said, well, if this is the case, let Booby Jamal out of jail then. Then prove it to me by bringing me and giving me my best back. Prove it to me by endorsing and supporting my best. Prove it to me by demonstrating your support of the game plan of the best so that we can, in fact, strain ourselves. And for them to make that claim, it's as disingenuous as everything else because they're presupposing how we define what we need and what we don't need. They're presupposing that my brother is useless because of his state. They're not saying, can you rehabilitate your brother? And I might say, oh, I know what his problem is. Give me the resources to do it. No, they're going to help me by this. We'll just kill him and make life easier. No, you're killing him is not making life easier. You're killing him is to create, to destroy my rib cage, to destroy my skull so I have no line so you can just kill me next. As Angela Davis said in the 60s, if they come for them in the night, they coming for you in the morning. So there's no favor in our slaughter, no matter what level of success or inefficiency that any of our people have, because they cannot distinguish one from the other. They think they can. And to take that liberty is to show how much Nazi kind of thinking they possess. And so we have to begin to design with the same sophistication that any great coach does, a floor plan to get our people trained so they can handle the competition of white onslaught in America. They're not emotionally trained. They're not psychologically trained. They're not intellectually trained. They're not spiritually trained. They're not culturally trained. They're not financially trained. They're not educationally trained. They don't know their history, so they don't deserve to be on the field. They need to be in the gym. Learning, being taught, being trained, made strong, understanding success, being able to create movements by using no alcoholic beverages and shutting down Budweiser and RJ Reynolds and all the companies that make billions off of our decadence and of our self-destruction. And then they step on the field ready to now, let's play ball. That's how we get free. And from that freedom, we can begin to get in control because we're unified, we're organized, we're moving in accord, and we've got one direction, one focus, one purpose.
Yeah, brother. You definitely have a formula, and you know, we appreciate the energy that you've brought to the show today. And I started out talking about it as the health literacy show. Obviously, health literacy show, just like I said, kind of spilled over into the Not on My Watch show, where we bring to the attention of our audience, we bring to their understanding and bring clarity to what it is that's taking place in the world today that the mainstream media doesn't want you to be exposed to. So I want for those of us in the viewing and listening audience, you know, again, you are an expert in the art of life and helping people get this thing called life right. You know, give us your contact information and give us a brief synopsis on what it is that or why it is that somebody would need to get in contact with you. And we're talking to, again, Brother Zindua Tambuzi, who is an obvious historian and we'll throw the label on him, visionary and prophet, in that defining what it is that we need to do is going to take that level of capability. Brother Tambuzi, share with us your contact information, and again, the area of expertise and what it is that you offer that would make people understand why they would need to get in contact with you.
Great. Well, my contact information is I can be reached on many platforms. I can be reached on Facebook.
Before you jump into that,
Sure.
This is the Not on My Watch show. And it's important that you understand that on the Not on My Watch show, we bring to the attention of the public, people that you wouldn't otherwise get, So you and the viewing audience need to understand that Brother Tambuzi is not somebody that's just like somebody that comes through the restaurant or somebody that's in the area. If I'm not mistaken, from New Jersey, now up in Detroit, that you are, you come with a level not only of experience and background, but also, you're right there on the front line of what it is that our people are experiencing there in Detroit. So again, I apologize, I interrupted just because I wanted our audience to know, who it is that they were getting this information from. Go ahead, and you were sharing with us.
Email at zatambuzi@yahoo.com. That's ZATAMBUZI@yahoo.com. That's ZATAMBUZI@yahoo.com. Or you can give me a call at any time at 313-585-1123. We believe in making it simple. That's 313-585-1123. Or I can be reached on Facebook at ZINDUA, that's Zindua Tambuzi, TAMBUZI. And what I do and love to do, both at the individual, the group, and organizational level, is teach our people how to plan, organize, and develop a process to accomplish what we want to be, what we want to do, and what we want to have. And we've got modalities to make that work so that you can be accountable to yourself and then heal your community and yourself as you begin to execute this floor plan. What is our floor plan to be free? If we don't have it, we ain't got it. And if we don't have it, we're not going to get it. And everything we're doing is just rearranging chairs on the Titanic. So we have to develop a floor plan to be free that may be 8 generations long, so that we are working the plan to get to the end. It's not a short-term plan. It's a perpetuity plan for transformation, healing, growing, and development. And you can start it by beginning to perfect yourself, because you will attract what you are and you will expand what you create. And whether it's enlightenment or decadence, when you begin to be, you begin to reflect it in the things that you touch, that you share, that you create, and you transform. And we can lead this process to our freedom, because it's not about them. What they do to us is a byproduct of what we're not doing to ourselves. Get healthy, cleanse your body, get to the gym, return to your strength, and get focused spiritually, focus emotionally, focus psychologically, focus spiritually, focus culturally, and become one, because you've mastered developing your mind so that you don't have to sell your labor and your time in order to survive and move forward. That's what we got to do. That's who we got to be. And when they see people like that coming at them at the thousands and the millions, the game changes.
That's what's up. You've been listening to Brother Zindua Tambuzi. This has been the Not on My Watch show with Dr. Baruch and Sister Helise. And you all got to share this link and share this video, like it, follow it, and be a part of what it is that we're doing by subscribing to what it is that we are creating here at the eLife Media Network. I want to thank you, Brother Tambuzi, and want to thank all of those in the listening audience for joining in with us today. You all have a great day. We're going to be back with more great programming on the Not on My Watch show. You all stay tuned.